Coming up, Basic Med turns 5 and it's doing great. We dive into the facts.
Plus, Go Wally Go, a longtime GA champion, earns her astronaut wings.
We fly the new Cirrus Vision Jet G2 Plus.
And a preview of AirVenture. AOPA Live this week begins in just a moment.
This is AOPA Live This Week with Tom Haines and Alyssa Cobb.
They said airplanes would fall out of the sky. They said pilots would fly when they weren't medically fit. They said general aviation accident rates would explode. They were wrong.
That's right. 5 years into Basic Med and the data are compelling. Basic Med works and it's safe.
And I'm really proud of this thing for all the safety it's incurred, all the wonderful things it's done for people to fly and to do it with less cost and to make sure they're taking care of their health on their own. What a win.
Well, Basic Med started 5 years ago after a long and hard lobbying campaign by AOPA and other aviation organizations. The bureaucrats at DOT, FAA, and the NTSB fought it all the way. It took a literal act of Congress to make it happen.
8 years ago right now that I joined AOPA and in the leadership position and listened to our members, and their number one concern had been this Basic Med, which became called Basic Med, but at that time was third-class medical reform. Frankly, had been lingering for 30 or 40 years without any movement at all, sitting at the desk at the FAA and with one petition after another to get something done. By the way, I was told that this is too high a risk to take on as a new CEO. Just the kind of thing I like to do, high risk but high reward, is to find a way. And putting the team together, led by Jim Kuhn, and who leads our government affairs effort, and really working it hard to try and evolve something that would work for the FAA and work for those that fly general aviation light aircraft under 6,000 pounds, is something I'm very proud of to be part of, and making sure that that actually happened. Not talked about, but actually got done. And it took a lot of work, I don't mind saying that. It was a lot of meetings on the Hill and educating congressmen and women about what these issues were in the Senate, and then finally getting it passed into law was something I would consider a milestone in my opportunity to be part of the leadership role in AOPA.
The law required a report on the success of Basic Med after 5 years. AOPA has just issued its study. The bottom line, general aviation is the safest it has been in decades. Accidents caused by pilot error are declining, and absolutely no evidence that pilots flying under Basic Med have any more accidents due to medical factors than any other medical certificates. Even the FAA couldn't find a problem with Basic Med, so it's safe. But what's even better is that more than 66,000 pilots are now flying safely under Basic Med, and many, perhaps most, of those 66,000 wouldn't be in the air now if it weren't for Basic Med.
I think from a legacy for AOPA and to the degree that I was able to round up the right team at the right time, I'm darn proud of it.
We can find more information on Basic Med at the URL there on your screen. Well, Tom, we had such high expectations for Basic Med when it was implemented, and it's great to see that it's met and is exceeding those expectations. So many pilots getting back in the air safely.
Yeah, it really is, and it's so rewarding to be at events and have pilots come up to us and talk about how they've gotten back into aviation as a result of it. But it's also great for people who could easily qualify for the normal third-class medical, but they would rather go to their personal physician and have a conversation with him and get a medical physical from their personal physician and deal with it all without having to go through submitting everything to the FAA. So a big win kind of across the board for people flying light airplanes.
That's right.
Well, he's not only richer, he flew higher. Tuesday, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and 3 other passengers blasted off from Texas in a suborbital flight to the edge of space, 66.5 miles above the Earth, above the Kármán line, and 13 miles higher than Sir Richard Branson in Spaceship Two. No pilots aboard the space capsule, dubbed New Shepard. Everything totally automated. Nothing for the passengers to do but enjoy the ride and the view. Those passengers included the youngest person in space, a Dutch teenager, and the oldest, pilot and Mercury 13 trainee, 82-year-old Wally Funk.
I've been waiting a long time to finally get it up there, and I've done a lot of astronaut training through the world, Russia, America, and I could always beat the guys on what they were doing because I was always stronger and I've always done everything on my own. And I didn't do dolls. I did outside stuff. and I flew airplanes. I over 19,000 some hours. I loved it. And I loved being here with all of you and your family and the four of us. We had a great time.
Bezos started his rocket company Blue Origin nearly 20 years ago. Besides space tourism, the company is working on larger reusable rockets for launching satellites and people up to the space station, and he has a vision of large space colonies. But Blue Origin is far behind Elon Musk's SpaceX, which is already putting people into orbit and is already flying a heavy lift rocket for big military payloads. Blue Origin thinks slow and steady ultimately wins the race. Their symbol is a turtle. But Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Richard Branson weren't the first space billionaires. That honor goes to Paul Allen, who funded a good part of Burt Rutan's effort to build the first private space vehicle, Spaceship One. And Allen also partnered with Rutan in Stratolaunch Systems, the biggest airplane in the world, used to launch space satellites and hypersonic vehicles. And as we mentioned last week, Spaceship One was built to compete for the Ansari X Prize for the first private reusable space vehicle. Earlier this week, I talked with one of the X Prize co-founders, Greg Marinak. He said the X Prize began in general aviation. He took his friend Peter Diamandis flying, and that rekindled Diamandis' passion for aviation. Later, he gave him a copy of Charles Lindbergh's book, The Spirit of St. Louis.
Well, when Peter eventually read it, he learned for the first time that Lindbergh had been pursuing a prize in 1927, the Orteig Prize, $25,000. For the first nonstop flight between New York and Paris. And we had been constantly stymied in the space business by the universal belief that only governments could do space flight. So we decided to try to destroy that paradigm by using the old aviation trick of offering a big prize, which we did in 1996. And as you mentioned, Tom, there was one in 2004 when Burt Rutan's Spaceship One, funded by Paul Allen, made two flights within actually 5 days of each other. The second one being on the anniversary of Sputnik, October 4, 2004. And gave them a big check for $10 million in November. And within a few months of that, the FAA had although they've been working with us for several years on this, they unveiled the rules under which Bezos and Branson, both of their companies, are applied today.
And you can see more of that interview in the Pilot Lounge section on our YouTube channel. So, Alyssa, it was great to catch up with Greg and kind of remember what happened back in 2004 and how significant it was. And it's nice to give a tip of the hat to Burt Rutan and all the incredible innovation that he did. That now those companies today are building on.
That's right, launching the start of it.
That's right.
Well, it may not be as exciting as space, but there is a lot of innovation in the electric aircraft world. Surf Air Mobility is working on a fleet of hybrid electric Cessna Grand Caravan EXs. The company just ordered 100 new Caravans from Textron. The goal is to build an efficient and affordable regional air carrier travel network. Surf Air also intends to buy Ampere. That's the company that developed a hybrid electric propulsion system currently flying on a Cessna 337 Skymaster. With the hybrid, Surf Air says the Caravans will have 25% lower emissions and operating costs. And a new record for electric aircraft. Electric charging company Beam Global says they set the world record for the longest flight in a production aircraft powered only by sunshine. Starting in Fresno, the Pipistrel Alpha Electro aircraft flew 227 nautical miles over Central California. The airplane made several stops to recharge, and at each stop, Beam set up an EV charger. Beam says the flight shows that airports can support electric aviation without any major new infrastructure. Well, some innovative new safety tech from Garmin. It's called SmartGlide. SmartGlide is a new way to help guide pilots safely to an airport after an engine failure. Using new Garmin avionics like the XI series navigators, SmartGlide recommends an airport within glide range. The avionics will also provide critical information on a smart banner, like runway length and elevation at the selected airport. Now, if you have a modern Garmin autopilot like the GFC 500 or 600, SmartGlide can even automatically pitch for best glide speed while navigating the airplane toward the airport. Now, if the engine quits, pilots activate the system with an optional SmartGlide button or by holding the Direct To button for 2 seconds. SmartGlide will be available for free via a software update. You can find out which avionics are compatible at the Garmin website.
And you can look for new Garmin avionics in the Epic Aircraft E1000 GX. The GX model is an update to the original Epic E1000. It features a Garmin GFC 700 automated flight control system and a Hartzell 5-blade composite propeller. Epic Aircraft just received FAA type certification for the new model. The airplane is powered by a PT6 turboprop engine, cruises at 333 knots, and climbs at 4,000 feet per minute to a maximum altitude of 34,000 feet. Epic says the E1000 GX deliveries will start this month. The airplane is priced at $3.85 million. And Cirrus Aircraft just announced the latest and greatest Vision Jet, and I recently took the new jet for a flight to see what's new. Cirrus Aircraft is continuing to innovate with the Vision Jet design. The single-engine jet first came to market in 2016. Generation 2 with auto throttles hit the airways in 2019, and new for 2021, the Vision Jet G2 Plus. The most significant new feature of the G2 Plus, more thrust on takeoff.
And what that ends up meaning for the customer is you would decrease the takeoff distance by up to 20% of ground roll, so you can use a lot of shorter runways. You can now also carry more people out of, or more payload out of some particular airports, especially in the high density altitude. And third, you're also climbing out at a lot higher gradient as well. So you're able to clear terrain a lot quicker, and you're able just to get up to your altitudes just that much more faster.
The extra thrust is made possible through a software update to the Full Authority Digital Engine Control, or FADEC. Cirrus is also offering Wi-Fi as an option on the G2 Plus.
So we utilize the GoGo L3 Advanced Wi-Fi system, and it utilizes the ground-based network, pretty much able to do a lot of things and keep you connected while you're in the air.
The Vision Jet is the first personal jet to offer a GoGo system.
I know personally for me as a pilot, I'm now able to do my next flight plan. I'm able to order food from Grubhub or from DoorDash or for whatever you may use and have it waiting for me in the FBO. I'm able to do the logistics of wherever my overnight stay is, whether it's booking hotels, getting rental cars, and pretty much just having access to all my applications, just even on my device. It's just been proven to be just so valuable.
These latest upgrades continue the Cirrus tradition of product enhancements, which has kept sales strong.
The Vision Jet's been doing fantastic since certification. We now have over 260 airplanes worldwide that have been delivered, and we have now over 530 type-rated pilots for the Vision Jet. So the market for the Vision Jet just continues to expand. The people who can fly the Vision Jet continue to expand. So we've been seeing just tremendous growth within the Vision Jet product line at Cirrus Aircraft.
A fully loaded G2 Plus Elite sells for $2.96 million.
But when we come back, a new look for AOPA Pilot Magazine.
And binding memories one page at a time. Stay with us.
The future of USB charging power has arrived. Introducing new ultra-fast charging TA360 USB chargers. Unlock the power of USB Power Delivery PD technology. Max power. Multiple configurations. In-seat cabin, cockpit, and galley USB power. Easy to install. Backed by the best. True Blue Power, the USB experts.
Welcome back. A fitting birthday tribute for 99-year-old Pathfinder pilot Lieutenant Colonel David Hamilton. He served in World War II, flying one of the first C-47s to cross enemy lines on D-Day. For his birthday, Hamilton was honored by the World War II Airborne Demonstration Team with a flight in a C-47. He took the controls for part of the jump flight over Frederick, Oklahoma. Happy birthday to Colonel Hamilton.
Well, AOPA hosted several first responders this week. Police officers and firefighters came to the Frederick Airport to learn more about GA airplanes. The goal is to better prepare first responders likely to be the first at the scene of an aircraft accident. Staff from AOPA demonstrated how to open different types of aircraft doors, how to secure the aircraft, and talked about fuel tank locations and fuel types. Now, this event was coordinated by the assistant airport manager.
Well, first responders typically at a general aviation airport don't get firsthand exposure to aircraft. A lot of larger airports, they have ARF units and they have fire departments on the airport. General aviation airports, we still have a lot of traffic, but we don't have those dedicated units here with that dedicated training and experience. So we're trying to get them a little bit more of that training and understand how aircraft work and what their needs are.
The event this week is just the start. AOPA and airport management are planning more training opportunities and drills with the first responders at the airport. Well, you may have noticed a fresh look for AOPA Pilot Magazine. Our flagship publication recently underwent a total redesign. We've made it bolder and more modern with a focus on being easier to read. Now, Tom sat down earlier this week for a chat with one of the talented designers behind the project.
We went through a lot of different concepts, floated them around, and we landed on this as the cover, which we're super excited about. My favorite part is the huge masthead. We went for that. And also, this is the first time in, I think, 40 years that we've put the AOPA logo back on the cover. Right. Really cool. So it's still AOPA Pilot, you can see it up here, but kind of ties it in with the whole rest of the corporation's branding. But yeah, so we kind of really wanted to go for more of a modern punch, bright colors. We went away from just the black and white masthead and kind of have started to incorporate color. So we've got red for turbine, yellow for regular. And yeah, we're super happy with how it turned out.
We have made sure not to shrink down the font. All of our changes were geared with better readability in mind. Now, some of the section you're used to have new names. P&E is now Rudder and Wrench, and Member News and Notes is now Fly with AOPA. But all the great content you've come to expect from Pilot is still there. Well, Tom, I got my copy in the mail last week, and wow, it looks great.
Oh, that's great to hear, because I know you hadn't seen it until you got it in the mailbox, so that's good to know. And we've been getting great feedback. Some people offering some comments and suggestions and that sort of thing, but overall it's been really positive. So it's great to see, and we'll continue as always to tweak the design and try to make it as useful to members as possible. Hey, some big new glass avionics news from Avidyne. The new Vantage flight display system has two 12-inch screens to serve as primary and multifunction displays. The new displays are currently targeted for Cirrus aircraft with Avidyne Integra avionics. They'll feel familiar to Avidyne users with inputs via touchscreen or with buttons and knobs. Vantage displays may be available for other aircraft in the future. The intro price, $12,500 for each display. The company expects them to be available next year.
Well, EA AirVenture is just a few days away, and on Thursday there will be a special opportunity just for AOPA members. You'll be able to take a free private tour of the Orbis Flying Eye Hospital MD-10. The MD-10 will be at AirVenture for the duration, but AOPA members can skip the long lines by taking the free tour Thursday evening. All you have to do is show your membership card. The airplane travels around the world as a mobile hospital for life-changing vision procedures. We did a video about Orbis in 2019. You can find it by searching for Orbis Flying Eye Hospital on AOPALive.org. Well, those who are going to AirVenture are bound to make memories. One woman makes sure she keeps her memories bound. AOPA Live's Paul Harrop introduces us to someone who takes photos and scrapbooking to the next level.
So I have some of the little maps in there. I got the aerial shots before we take off. I have the date there.
Darcy Mahalanak is a shutterbug.
I like to take pictures. That's one of my hobbies. Whatever catches my interest.
And she takes it a step further.
A local fly in there with our friends.
Producing hardback books of her photos. Scrapbooks that serve as logbooks.
My husband used to fly with his father whenever he was younger, and we were looking through his old logbooks, and we noticed that he had the time marked down, but a lot of times he would think, well, I wonder where we went that day, and I wonder who went with us, and what did we have a destination, or were we just flying around to see the scenery? And I thought it would be really neat to go ahead and take all of the photographs that I have and put them in a book, and then that way it'd be more like a photo logbook.
and 16 volumes later, there's some great memories preserved.
All the great people that we meet and all the stories that they tell us, and just the experiences that they've had, and it's just so nice to meet new faces. And then my books help me remember everybody too.
Once they're bound, she brings them around and has folks sign them like a yearbook.
The next air show that I get to see them at is when I get to have them autograph them for me. I have lots of memories so far, and hopefully many more to come.
In Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, Paul Harrop, AOPA Live.
Well, Darcy is a past winner of one of our AOPA.org photo contests. She and her husband Rick travel frequently via GA after he got his certificate in 2015. You can read a story we did on Rick and the parallels between his training and his late father's on our website. Just search for Like Father, Like Son. Well, that's it for this week. Be sure to tune in next Thursday when we'll bring you coverage from AirVenture in Oshkosh. You can follow along live on AOPA's social media feeds.
Yes, you can, and tag us in your photos and videos. We want to see your OSH experience. The hashtag to use is FlyWithAOPA. Safe travels to Oshkosh. I'll be there all week. Come see us by the famed Brown Arch when you get in.
My name is Savannah Rasky, and I have about 600 hours. I currently hold my commercial single-engine land and sea ratings with an instrument add-on. I've been in the Air National Guard for about 9 years, so being an enlisted member, I knew that I wanted to continue a career in the Air Force, but I wanted to do it as an officer, flying for the greatest force in our military. Fortunately, I was picked up to fly the F-35 for Montgomery, Alabama. So I own a Piper Cherokee 6 260, and we also have this Aztec right here, which I'm going to be doing my multi-training in. I use SiriusXM Aviation Weather because it gives me an added confidence in the kind of weather that I'm going to be flying into on long cross countries, from Florida to Utah and back multiple times, up to Oshkosh, back down. And so having a weather system like SiriusXM that I can rely on gives me a lot of confidence as a pilot.